retention is huge. Like I mentioned, it's, once you've established that relationship, it's yours to lose.
Welcome to Driving Growth, the go-to-market podcast for traditional B2B businesses that are looking to build systems to create predictable revenue growth. In short, turning their company into a revenue factory. I'm your host, Steve Whittington, and president of Roadmap, an agency that builds go-to-market systems. On today's show, Brett Schmidt, CEO of CORR Grain. This is a fascinating story of an organization that was a startup just a little while ago and now is one of the major drivers in agriculture in Western Canada. We're really excited to have Brett on the show as he takes us through the journey that got them from there to here. Enjoy the conversation. Hey Brett, it's fantastic to finally get you on the show. I've been chasing you for a while to get you here. So clearly, I know you, but our listeners don't know you. So could you introduce yourself and then tell us about CORR Grain?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me on too. It's definitely outside my comfort zone, so I'm excited to do this. And I wasn't sad when the first one got canceled, but I'm prepared today. So my name is Brett Schmidt. I'm the president and CEO of CORR Grain Systems, Inc. We're located just outside of Regina, Saskatchewan. I've been in the agriculture equipment business for about 14 years now. CORR Grain is we like to say, a technology-driven company focused on delivering industry-leading grain storage, handling, and conditioning solutions across Western Canada. And our mantra is doing the right thing for your farm. It guides every decision we make and everything we do.
You're one of the co-founders back in 2014, I believe it was.
Yeah.
You've evolved with the organization with several roles. The role prior to this was VP of Finance, I believe. You're now CEO. And, when you think about all your background with the organization over now it's 11, 12 years, I guess. What's your view of things as a CEO as to what you're doing that drives your business now?
Well, I think over time, your lens changes and you get kind of a wider periphery, like when we started the company, as a co-founder and kind of one of the younger members, I was doing everything from painting the office to signing up new contractors and, establishing our rudimentary Excel systems that, proved crucial, obviously, but, they were not much at that time. As VP of Finance, you kind of learn how to scale and budget responsibly, and, managing your inventory and working capital was, what made the world go round. But these days, I've been CEO for about 3 years now. And, majority of my time, I tell people, I'm HR mostly. I focus on aligning our people, culture, and strategy to drive growth sustainably for the company.
It sounds like, you started with a simple solution. Hey, we're going to provide larger storage for producers. And what you're seeing is that these producers, their need is like, you need to become part of the product ecosystem that serves their farm, right?
Yeah.
So talk about that. So what was the insight that you got from working with your customers that said, hey, we need to move from being a vendor of choice to a trusted partner of serving our producer customers?
Early on, we had started doing a customer survey. It wasn't like an online survey, but we did a call out at the end of the year. Most online surveys, you're just going to get the extremes: very happy, very sad. With our call outs, we got that very crucial middle ground customer feedback where, they were saying the little things like, I don't like that the trucks come in all over the place. You got 5 different loads scattered across a couple months. How do you make that better? And hey, everything went well, except there's a couple pieces still lying around here on the yard. And they said they'd come back to put them on and they didn't. Stuff like that where the customer would, the average customer is going to take care of it themselves, not make a big stink about it. But when they brought it up, we realized that we were missing something here. So it allowed us to go back to farm, tidy things up, make sure that everything was put away properly. Took some of that information about trucking and took that back to our suppliers and back to our management. And we made changes from there.
So let me unpack that a little bit. So you're right. A lot of organizations will send out a CSAT, which is an online survey. You can try to get, have fields in which people can put text in, because that's where the real gold is, when people type something in. But it doesn't happen that often. They pick a number, right? So you could have had a CSAT that's given you like an 8 out of 10 and everything's golden, right? Because even though there was 5 trucks showed up at random times, so to speak, well, it's still, the bin's up, everything's good. They've trained me on it. It's working. Yeah, 8 out of 10, right? But what you chose to do was, as you said, call outs. And so essentially, that's deep customer research as part of your survey. And then I'm assuming obviously you recorded these in some way, shape, or form, so that you could get all these nuances and really understand ways that you could improve the customer experience. Okay, I gotta say that for you to drive in those early days anyway, driving awareness for CORR Grain, was that one of your things of building trust and improving the end customer experience that helped you grow your business through word of mouth? Or what are some of the strategies that you did to build awareness for the business?
Yeah. The biggest thing, I think, in terms of trust and awareness is, our salespeople are strategically located all across the prairie provinces. They actually live in the communities they service. It's a lot easier for them to build relationships and trust when the customer sees them out in the community and understands that they truly have a vested interest in the success of that community. They're not just a transactional relationship; they're a neighbor or a friend in some cases. So we leaned heavily on referral networks, grower events, and trade shows over the years. I like to think a trade show is kind of like speed dating for the customer. They can kind of get to meet a bunch of different salespeople from different companies in a very short period of time, and decide, hey, I really hit it off with that guy, and I'd like to make my next purchase through somebody that I actually like on a personal level.
Hey, I just wanted to take a moment to remind you that everything we're talking about is available in our Revenue Factory Toolkit. Go to weareroadmap.com/podcast and find it there today. Download the mathematical models, download the deck with all this information, and start building your go-to-market system. In those early days, what was the most effective or impactful strategies? You mentioned trade shows. You mentioned having outbound reps strategically put in territories across, the 3 provinces. So what was the big thing that you did, or a combination of? It might have been a mix of that. Hey, we had to do A, B, C, D in order to acquire customers. And then when you're done there, I want to dive into how you've now retained them, and we'll talk a bit more about that. So let's start with the acquisition first, then we'll get into the retention, because that sounds like a big part of your success is getting them and then keeping them and growing them. So
sure. Yeah, when we started out, not all of our sales guys had previously been salespeople.
Okay.
So they had the most work to do. They had no trap lines set. They had very little experience in the direct sales of grain storage. So in the early days, it was all about, the cliche of, hustling and cold calls and boots on the ground, driving into a bin yard, and going to ask the guy where he bought his bins from previously.
Right.
Introducing yourself and starting to spark up those relationships. And, we had a few guys that really hit the ground hard, and they really made a name for themselves really quickly, in only a matter of a couple of years. So it was really impressive to see. And as we grew, we built a strong referral network, partnerships with other companies that provide us referral business to this day. And then as you age and as you mature a little bit, the brand and your reputation start to do the heavy lifting, so to speak. Today it's not very easy to acquire a new customer. Um, Most operations have either purchased storage or handling from someone, at least once in their time as operators. And so unless they've had a negative experience with them, or their pricing is, maybe up to lunch, it's hard to flip somebody and get them to give you a shot.
Right. So what you're telling me is Western Canada is fairly saturated now, and it's more of the retention side for growth of your business at this point in time as you've matured?
Yeah, retention is huge. Like I mentioned, it's, once you've established that relationship, it's yours to lose.
Right.
We focus on service after the sale, beginning with the sales team and all the way through to the, customer survey at the end of the year. Because it's all about retaining that relationship and making sure that people aren't disappointed or, unhappy and not saying anything about it. We need the good taste to last for a while. And, whether it's stepping in when a supplier warranty lapses or, offering some proactive maintenance, we want to make sure that the customers feel supported.
Okay. So I'm going to back up a little bit. So you started with an outbound motion with reps that were doing full cycle sales. Like they were prospecting, they were providing a solution. They sometimes are probably delivering in their pickup, for goodness sakes, I would think, right? So
Definitely.
full cycle sales. And now when you look at it, you've got this, this block of business, and you to grow your business, it's tough because you said the marketplace is fairly saturated. So it's like now it's all about expansion and retention of your existing business. And you mentioned, customer service, going beyond manufacturer warranties, that kind of stuff. You're essentially doing everything it takes to actually retain that customer and keep it. That becomes your center focus, make them happy, be their partner. Now, what are you doing for like specific, I would call it like account management of these groups of customers? So you've put in a CRM, and that's been like, under 2 years you've had a CRM now. So as you've matured and you see now, does that CRM, has that provided an impact so that you have more visibility of your customers as you've matured? You can do better account management. Well, you talk about like what's been the impact to your business of having that critical piece of software in place for your driving your business?
Yeah, well, it's been a game changer for sure. It took longer than I had hoped to instill the benefit in the rest of the group.
Right.
Getting guys on the bus was not easy, and we came to a point at about 18 months where we said, "Okay, guys, we got to get going on this. It's here. It's operational. We see the benefits, and we think you will too. So please just try it out." And once they started, we started a weekly meeting where they could just kind of put their hand up and ask, hey, here's a dumb question, but maybe somebody else is thinking it. So, we started to do those meetings every week. And eventually it got to a point where, all but probably 2 or 3 real old dogs are in it and thriving in it now. Of course it does the things that it's supposed to, right? You track your customer interactions, you follow up on leads, nobody falls through the cracks. That's great. But we started using it for, budget monitoring and, gaining some market intelligence as well. Just a little thing that happened a few weeks ago. We noticed we were kind of reviewing some marketing information and something kind of didn't look right. What had happened was the sales team, we all have our phone numbers on the website.
Right.
We've had those phone numbers for ages. So when somebody goes to the website, they phone that number. Well, there's no way for us to track that the website drove that call. And we wouldn't have seen that unless we were looking through our results that were dumped into HubSpot, because we magically had 60 new, additional customers added to the CRM one month. And, as nice as it would be to organically have, 60 leads directly from the sales guys, it looked suspicious. So what we ended up doing was creating trackable numbers and adding that to our website. So now we can confirm whether or not our theory is that it's driving from the website, or, did the sales guy actually go out and, organically find 60 new leads in a month that's historically not much for travel.
So good on you for you're using the CRM and you're validating numbers and you're digging in, you're doing that kind of stuff. But I want to back up to, you said something really important. In order to get the CRM to become this central source of truth, to become something that you then investigate on a weekly basis, looking at numbers that are driving growth, having that data model in place, and then validating the data model, you had to do a culture change. You had to get that happening. So, and you did that by basically, as a leader, calling weekly meetings, no dumb questions, that kind of stuff, supporting, nurturing, training, making that happen. What other things have you done to drive culture change? And then, we just talked about it as one specific thing that you're doing right now, becoming more of a data-driven organization. What do you think the role of culture change as you've evolved over the last few years has done with your organization? So kind of two things to unpack there.
Yeah. Culture is huge. We're a very small company. There's about 30 of us all together at peak season. So, when I stepped into a leadership role, which is before I became CEO, I was one of the youngest people, if not the youngest person in the company. So, getting that and fostering that respect from the elder individuals in the company is not something that one can just expect. You have to earn it and work every day at that. And for us, from day one, we've kind of fostered this family-like environment. And these days it's kind of like a cliche statement, but it's something we worked at since day one. We hire people who align with our values, and we mentor new people. Indoctrinate's kind of a weird word, way to put it, but it is. You bring them in, you welcome the new team members with open arms, and you try and show them that this is why we do things, and this is why we thrive this way. We try to support our employee growth and education by providing funding for education and training opportunities wherever possible. And the other thing that's really the big factor in our company culture is that we're quite dispersed. We have
right.
our main.
You're kind of remote, right?
Yeah, exactly. We have our main hub here in Regina, and about 12 of us work out of that area. And some people that support the office environment are actually remote as well. But the rest of us are scattered through the prairie provinces. So It's really important to keep a finger on the pulse of corporate morale, and we try to monitor that at all times. We try to get together as a team multiple times a year and as many times as possible. Trade shows is another time when we can bring in as many people as possible to an event and kind of spend that time and share meals together. And at Christmas time, we bring in the families and the kids, and everybody always has a good time there.
Right. So so in order for you to push a new initiative, you've got this strong culture that is supportive of making change, because you're such a strong bond as a small team. That's great stuff. So it's a remarkable success story, because I know where you've come from and where you are today, and how much you've grown and how you're evolving, and the position you have in the Western Canadian marketplace. Now, what's next?
Over the next few years, we're really continuing to focus on the entire customer experience, not just, how did the bin build go? We want to be a part of that advisory role in that customer's business, right from day one until, they pass it down to the next generation. As the next big thing for us isn't really big. It's more like developing smarter systems, automating some manual processes that we still do, hoping that allows us to dedicate more resources to and care for that customer. we're also exploring some new partnerships and a little bit of regional growth here and there. But to win, we'll need to keep investing in our people and staying close to our customers.
Right. So that's great for people to hear. Like everything you talked about is, you're going to invest in your people, invest in your culture, and invest in deep customer understanding to continue to thrive and grow. And then by doing that, you'll know where you need to put your efforts for smarter systems, automation, obviously AI-enabled support, that sort of stuff. Really great stuff. Brett, it's been great to have you on the show. Appreciate all the insights, everything you've shared about your story and your journey. Where can people find it more about you and more about CORR Grain if they're wanting to connect?
The CORR Grain website's the best place to get in contact with me. It's corrgrain.ca.
Perfect. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Well, that was a great episode with Brett, really unpacking the different steps in their growth journey and how they have been driving growth at CORR Grain. What I really appreciated as a customer experience professional myself is Brett's almost obsessive focus on the customer journey and understanding their customers. And Brett knows that has been what has been a differentiator for them, how they are able to show up as a partner, as an advisor, and understand the marketplace as to what they're going to do next. In fact, what I heard, which wasn't said, but what I picked up, what I heard from Brett was they have a confidence in how they're going to grow, maybe not knowing exactly what they need to do, but because they are going to respond and understand and listen to their customers, those growth opportunities will emerge. Great story. Lots of stuff to unpack. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like what you heard, go to weareroadmap.com/podcast and download the Revenue Factory Toolkit, in which you will receive the mathematical models and framework for building your own go-to-market system. Also, subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts, with new episodes dropping the first and third Wednesday of every month. I'm Steve Whittington. Thanks for listening. Keep building your revenue factory one brick at a time.